Okay. All right, guys, I had to put the recording back on because Kimmy will kill me if I didn't do that. Okay, so we're back on the work history and the income. So work history and income for these clients, it's very important because it's one of the main bases for qualifying these clients. 2-year history in general is what we're looking for. That is not to say that there's exceptions to this, and there are also workarounds. We are in Miami. We do have we tend to have a lot of people who come from different countries or migrating here and starting their lives here. I have had scenarios in which, let's say, for example, I have a client that has been here for a year, so they can only really show a year history of work. However, I have been able in certain cases to been able to document income from other countries and use that to meet that requirement of the 2-year history. Again, that it's not 100% that it's going to work for everyone, but I have been able to do that in the past where I can use history from another country where they were living prior to fulfill that 2-year minimum. Apart from the 2-year history, the exceptions that we normally can, and the most common exception is someone that's been studying for the field that they're going to be working in and just started a job that has a fixed salary, W-2. I don't need to have that full 2-year history to be able to qualify them. For example, the most common example I give is, say, someone that was studying to be a nurse and got their degree, passed their licensing, and started a job automatically with, let's just say, Baptist, and is on a salary fixed W-2 earning. That client will be eligible to qualify for a loan because I can document the school history as part of their employment to meet that criteria. Okay, so there are some exceptions to that 2-year history. In general, I want you guys to know when speaking to that client and knowing you got some of that info, you found out how they earned. If for some reason they tell you that they were self-employed, they earned with a 1099, but just recently jumped into a W-2 that pays them a fixed salary, that is going to be eligible to qualify. We don't have to worry about that transition from that type of earning. Now, the one you do want to be concerned with is if we go on the inverse and that client is changing from a W-2 job, has a full history of W-2, but all of a sudden became 1099. If they jumped from W-2 to 1099 or self-employed, has their own business, that's something that's going to hurt us a bit because I do need to show a continuous history of that self-employment or 1099 to be able to qualify. In general, we want to have a 2-year history, so 2 taxes filed with that type of earning so that we can use that income to qualify. Again, that is not 100%. Sometimes there's exceptions, but that is going to be the general rule 99% of the time. Okay? Anything that's overtime, bonus, commission, or tips is also going to require a history of that type of earning because we're going to have to average those earnings to give them the correct earning that they're going to be qualifying with. Okay? Again, I just want to let you guys, I'm not here to teach you the lending side so that you guys qualify the client, but it is great to have the knowledge and the background and the knowing as to why we're asking these certain things. And again, we're using all these little tools to kind of filter for ourselves as you guys talk to that client initially. Okay. Do I have any questions on the income? No? Guys, feel free to speak. Don't be shy. Any questions? There's no silly questions. The silliest question is the ones that you don't ask, okay? So if there's anything that's not clear to you, feel free to stop me. Okay, credit scores. We're jumping from income to credit. Now, these are the minimum scores that we require, okay? So it's not that there's not that you need to, okay, I'm trying to think how to word this right. just because this is the minimum credit score required doesn't mean that this is going to qualify everyone. Because I do have clients that have come to me with a 590, let's say, because we allow FHA to 580, but still don't qualify. The file does need to be strong, and keep in mind that we are also always going to have to run an automated underwriting, whether it be DU or LP, to make sure that it likes the file. Let me see. I got a question here from Mariali. Okay, Mariali, there is no minimum income to qualify, how set like on a paper saying, hey, I need to have this much. But do keep in mind that the income has to be sufficient to carry a mortgage. So if the income is very low, there might not be enough room for that client to have that income sufficient to carry the mortgage that they want to get. Or the income might be too low where it might put them in a range where they're not going to find something in this current market for how much they can obtain. So to answer your question, no, there's no minimum income, but there does need to be sufficient to qualify for what's common in this market. I would tell you on average, an income that's on the lower side that we normally would like to see is around 40 to 50,000 a year. And again, that's gonna also depend on how much debts the clients have, because you can compare two clients that make the same income, and one can be in a much better place than the other if they have no debts compared to having a lot of debts. It all comes down to ratios, your debt to income ratios. How much of your income is going to your mortgage payment plus your obligations, cards, credit cards, etc. Okay, Mariali? Going back to the credit, like I said, these are the minimums, but we will be analyzing towards what's going to benefit this client the most and where they can be placed. And we're always going to run that DU and make sure that they still qualify even though they're within those thresholds. For example, conventional here. Conventional allows us to go down to a 620. However, for that client that maybe is at 625, 630, we might still tell them an FHA is going to be more beneficial because conventional is going to have a lot of hard hits for that lower credit client. Conventional is very credit driven, whereas FHA is not. And the score is not only the only thing that we look at. The score is a major factor, but the report in itself is very important. We got to make sure what's on that credit report. What does the history look like? Are there any disputes on the credit that may need to be removed because we cannot close a mortgage with any disputes on the credit? Collections are a big thing. We got to make sure there's not an excess amount of collections that might hurt them against their qualifying, and just a lot of little things. So keep an idea that this is a good to know what your minimum is. And of course, we're always going to work to qualify these clients as much as we can. We get nothing out of saying no. So our goal, and at least my motto, is to any client, I never give them a no, you don't qualify. I might say that you don't qualify at the moment, but we will work on a plan to get them to that point to be ready as long as they put their part as well. Okay. So 580 FHA, 620 with conventional, 640 is the average score needed for when we're trying to use any of the first-time buyer programs that help with assistance. Okay. Eligible buyers. We get this question a lot, especially here in South Florida, where we have such a mix of different people coming in from different countries or different backgrounds. Of course, citizens and residents are always going to be eligible. But as like some people might think, I have a work permit, I can't qualify. You can qualify with a work permit. And what happens is with the work permit, it's just very important that we make sure that the client has a renewed work permit. So it can't be someone that has their first work permit and hasn't had any renewals or applied for renewal. I do need to make sure that there is at least one renewal or an application for renewal to be able to qualify that client. Here's a list of all the visas that are eligible. Do not ask me what each one is, because I honestly do not know. But in general, you just have a list here for the items that, or the visas that are eligible to qualify for buying. And a big one we get here is questions about the political asylum. You can purchase if you are on political asylum due to the reason that when you are on political asylum, you automatically get a work permit, from my understanding. So if you meet the criteria of the work permit and are in that political asylum, you are eligible to buy. Okay. So just keep that in mind. What I'll do is I'll send this to whoever wants, send me a text, an email, whatever, and I can send you these things so you have them for referencing and keeping in mind. Okay. But just know that you do not, loans are not only for citizens and residents. You can have other circumstances where those clients qualify. Okay, now we've kind of talked about analyzing that client, what criteria they need to meet, are they eligible? Once you've kind of filtered that client and known, okay, this is a very good lead, this is someone that's has a very good potential of qualifying, we want to get them to that point where they do come see us, the lender, to get qualified, so that you know that target range of where you want to be with them, and send them looking for homes, or going out to look for homes with them. So how do we get them to us to start that process? Honestly, there's not one perfect way. You're going to kind of have to find the way that works best for you and that client. Some clients are very, they don't need to meet in person and are fine just doing everything through a phone call, through an email. Some clients might want to meet in person, and that's fine as well. Nowadays, with everything going on with Corona, Zoom is very big. I am doing a lot of qualifications through Zoom, FaceTime, WhatsApp video. So I just want you to keep in mind the way of qualifying that client is not an issue, because we're going to have a variety of options of how to start that. The most important part is you being that first contact to that client, getting them comfortable to talk to the lender, to call William and say, hey, I'm ready, I want to pre-qualify. What are those steps that we need to do? Unfortunately, a lot of the lender is a scary part for clients. Pretty much I'm looking into their whole life. I'm looking at their financials, their background, everything, and people are iffy with that information. So again, I stem to what I started the presentation with. We're trying to build that bond, gain that trust, make them feel comfortable so that they're comfortable reaching that part of talking to the lender and getting pre-qualified. Okay, so again, just getting them to us is going to be the major part. From that, we'll take over and handle the rest of pre-qualifying them. Once you've already kind of analyzed this client, know that they're a good lead, has a good possibility, or whether they're not, and you know we need to work with them and make them a plan for buying in the future. Don't ever turn down those clients as well, because those that you dedicate some time to and maybe prepare them for the future for buying are going to appreciate that and think highly of you for helping them with that position. Okay. To the left of this is kind of a general list of the items that will be needed for the pre-qualification. I can send this through email to you or anyone that wants. And I also have a format that's in text, so that can easily be shared through text with clients. Okay. So again, we are flexible as to how we can work with those clients, pre-qualify them, meet with them, whether it be video, in person, whatever it may be. It's just getting them to us and let's get them pre-qualified. This is the list of the items we'll give them, and we will be reviewing those items for the pre-qualification. Apart from the list of items that they'll need, what we do urge the clients to do is to start their application. Why are we so big on getting them to do their application electronically? whether they still want to meet in person or do it through Zoom or anything, we do urge that the clients do this application so that we can um, start the process. So why are we so big on this? We want to make sure that we get that client's authorization. And it's a very simple, the platform that Caliber has created for these clients to do this application is super simple. If your client can handle their Instagram or their Facebook, they can walk through this application with ease. It's very simple. Um, it's going to authorize them. They're going to pull their own credit through there and it'll go into my system. If they work with an employer that has online verification, I'll automatically get their income verified. The clients can connect their bank statements directly. It's a safe and secure system to where we will digitally verify their funds. And we don't need to be asking that client for, hey, send me this pay stub. You're missing a page. I need a transaction history. All that's avoided with this because it's just digitally verified. The system checks, make sure there's no deposits that we need to review, what it may be. It's using technology to benefit us and make the system faster and easier for this client, so we bombard them less with all these extra documents or things to ask them for. So it just makes it a lot simpler for them to go through this and start that application. Now, that's not saying, hey, start this and we can't meet. If you have that client that still wants to meet in person, we can do that. This is just going to help us get started and moving forward with everything. We have some people, maybe elderly clients that are not comfortable with technology, cannot do it. Should we be meeting in office with them? That's fine. I will be still guiding them through this process and just doing it together with them in the office, because we do need that application to be completed. Okay. Right here, this link, very important. You guys can save this. As long as those who do want the items through text, what I will do is I'll send you the items of the list of items needed, plus the link where they can complete this. Again, a major thing is that this application is very mobile friendly. They don't have to be concerned that, oh no, I don't have it on the computer, or I have access to a computer right away. Like I said, if you can use Facebook, you can use Instagram, you can complete this application in less than 10 to 15 minutes, okay? And it's very mobile friendly, can be done directly from the phone, okay? Talking about apps, technology, Caliber also has created a platform for you, the agents. So this app right here, Caliber My Pipeline, is curtailed specifically for you guys, the agents. This here will keep track of all the clients which we'll be working together with and let you know what step each client is at, whether it's they're at that pre-qualification stage, has credit been ordered, if it's in processing, underwriting, when the approval comes in. Communication is key in this business, and it's very important that you have something like this to kind of keep in line everything that we're working with. And I'm very big on communication, and I like to still stay in touch with you personally, but it's awesome having this backup to let you know. Or if on the fly you wake up Saturday morning and want to know, hey, where is Fulanito at? We can see, okay, Fulanito has already been underwritten and the approval is in. So we should be working closer towards getting towards that closing, okay? So right here, this can be downloaded in the App Store or the Google Store. It's called Caliber My Pipeline. You would create it for yourself. And once a client is entered into the system and I put whoever that referral source is or who the realtor is for this transaction, you'll automatically get access to that file and know where we stand with that. Okay. Now, we've kind of talked about that initial step. We got that lead, we got that call, we analyzed that client, and we got them to that table to pre-qualify. Okay, so what do we do from this step? The client's pre-qualified, we're ready to go look at homes. Okay, so Now let's talk a little bit about that process. What happens in between that pre-qualification to getting them to a contract? I want you guys to focus on some important key points when you're searching for those homes. Price range is going to be a big key. So that pre-qualification that's given to that client, that pre-approval letter, is going to give you a price. Let's say, for example, we said that the pre-qualification is 300,000. What I want you guys to know is that that 300,000 is based on estimates for taxes, insurance, if there's any HOA. So it's really not a for sure 300. So I do urge you guys to let me see properties that you are interested in or that client is interested in to make sure that those numbers fall within those parameters of the estimates I did. An example I like to give is I had a client that was pre-qualified in that 300 range. Client was excited, went out, found a home. They sent me a home that was 275. They were eager to put in that contract. I ran the numbers, and unfortunately, that house didn't qualify. They were a bit upset, and I will say in part it's my fault too that I hadn't explained that to them of the whole. So they were just dead set on thinking it was 300. Come to be that passes, we find another house. They ended up actually closing on a house that was 325, even though their approval was 300, because that house met the criteria and fell within that mortgage payment that I needed to be able to qualify them. So again, when a price is given, it's just a range. That's not going to be the dead set, hey, you have to find a house that's 300. It cannot be $301. So it's flexible. We just got to make sure where I go into the next part is that you know that parameter of the monthly payment that I'm using to qualify that client. Some key points that you also want to know is the interest rate that was quoted for that estimate and what type of mortgage program was used. Okay, so the reason I tell you guys to keep in mind these important parts is because what I want you guys to make a habit of when searching for homes is to use any mortgage calculator. There's many out there. Some people like certain ones, some like others. So I want you to find the one that you like, that's going to work best for you when you get into searching for homes or filtering homes to show these clients. The reason that I want you to get common with this is because I'm going to leave you with a monthly payment that we cannot exceed for that client. Whenever you get your listings through MLS, I want you to make the habit of plugging in that information into a mortgage calculator and make sure that we're not passing that threshold. Let's say, for example, that example I just gave, that 275 house, that was too high. Would we have done that exercise and known that that payment was going to exceed? That's a house that we would have not even shown that client to start with, because we could have explained to them that that payment was going to be higher. Again, I'm not throwing all this on you guys or saying that you guys need to do this work. I am available to run numbers, check numbers, but not always. There might be a point where I'm not available at the time. It needs to be something done in a rush. So I do want you guys to also get in a habit of trying to run these calculations yourself. And if you're not too comfortable and have an idea and you want me to confirm, of course, send it to me and I'll double check that. Okay. But it is going to help you to filter all what comes out on that MLS search and make sure that you're giving yourself a good list of qualified homes to go show these clients. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay. I just want to make sure you guys are clear, because this is a very important part. And honestly, you guys don't want to be wasting time looking at homes that may not qualify for that client. So make sure that you ingrain this and you make this common practice when searching for those homes. Okay. So apart from these items that we're going to keep in mind, I'm just going to delve a little into what's the breakdown of the payment and what's in it. Okay. Taxes is a big thing to make sure, because this can vary greatly depending from the location, time of year, things, what taxes are going to be used in that estimate of payment. Okay. Property taxes are going to have on average two things that the lender will be looking at. I will either be looking at what the current tax bill is for that year for that home, or I will be looking at a tax estimator. In what scenarios would I look at a tax estimator? Let's say, for example, I pull up this tax bill. We're seeing a $300,000 house. I pull up the tax bill, and for some reason, I see that that tax bill is only $900 for the year. That's extremely low for a house of that price point or size, whatever it may be. I myself, as a lender, already know that's not a realistic tax range. How could that be there? That could be a house that someone has owned for years as their primary residence, has had the homestead exemption on it, and their taxes have not been climbing at a higher rate that they normally would have should they have not met that criteria. Now, we as a lender are not going to put this client into a predicament where we qualify them with that low amount, knowing that the following year their taxes are going to be adjusted to what the current market value is and increase their payments significantly. For example, that $300,000 house should be in a tax range that's almost 4,000 something. If that tax bill was 900, I'm going to have a shortage of about $3,000 for that following year, and that's going to affect them greatly, and that their payment will go up to make sure we cover that difference. Okay, so that's the importance into why we look at tax estimators at time. Okay, you guys don't have to do this step. The lender will be doing this and verifying, but I do like to make this a practice into looking, because so you guys know, the MLS puts whatever taxes entered manually from the agent or imported from the tax website. The tax website's going to take what's on that current bill. So if it's pulling that low amount, I can't guarantee that that's going to be that amount for that client. So I'm going to do the work of making sure that they're in the right tax range. Okay. This is the Miami-Dade site. Broward is a little different, but similar concept idea, has all these things to check. Again, I'm showing you this for those that would like to know this and have this for themselves for looking. You always have access to all these records. These are public records. You would look at the address you're searching for. It's going to pull up all the records for that property. And on this section here is where you would look at all these tax items. Okay. So this is where it's going to pull up that information and let me know what taxes we're going to be using for that claim. This is an image of what the current tax bills look like. So I would pull up, for example, this house looks good. We know it's in the 3-something range, and the taxes are about $4,900. So in a scenario like this, I would know that I'm fine. I don't have to be doing the tax estimator or anything. Should it be a scenario like the one I gave you that the taxes are too low, I will run that tax estimator. So that tax estimator will use the property's folio, the assessed value for that property, and give you an estimate of what the county says the taxes will be for that property the next tax year. Okay, so here you see, should I have one that gave me $900, $1,000, but I ran all this information, it's going to tell me the true taxes for this property will probably be around $4,400. Okay. Another thing to keep in mind, and specifically now during this time of year, a lot of properties are receiving their trim notices. Trim notices basically are a notice from the county giving you a proposal of what the taxes could be should there be any changes to budgets or anything throughout the county. The bank does take a look at this now in these months of October, November, because there could be significant changes in upcoming years. So we're always going to look at this trim notice throughout these months of qualifying to make sure that there's no major changes. Notice there's always going to be 3 columns. Whatever the taxes currently were, what taxes would be if there is no budget change, and what taxes would be if there was a budget change. Now, the bank is always going to take the higher of these two, the current tax bill, or if no budget is changed. So keep in mind, the good thing is we're not going to go with this high one if there is a budget change, but we will look at the higher of these two. For this example right here, I would be taking what their current tax bill is. Okay. So that's taxes. Insurance. Insurance is a big thing to consider when doing that exercise of analyzing that property, filtering what's coming out in the MLS. I'm always going to give you guys an estimate of what I believe insurances can be, but I'm not an insurance agent. That is going to greatly depend on what finally happens with that house, what the inspections say, and what the property quotes as. Now, throughout time, I've had experience where I can gauge and have good ranges of what an insurance is going to be. So I'll give you that proposed payment of what I think it could be, but just know with the clients, we got to let them know that that can fluctuate. That can be a plus or minus. But for example, if we're looking at a condo, I know that that's going to be a much lower policy compared to a single family home. Should we be buying a townhouse that has a very high HOA, I know that there's a good chance that that HOA includes some type of insurance for the exterior, so the client may only need an interior policy. So those are little things we'll notice, and I'll gauge and let you guys know as we're giving that estimated payment. I will tell you, hey, this is going to be my range for insurances for this house. And throughout time, you guys yourselves are going to learn and also be able to qualify, hey, insurance for this house is probably going to be around X amount, and work that into your numbers. Okay. Aside from taxes and insurance, what else can be in that payment that can affect our qualification? Flood insurance. I tend to always, even if it's not in an area, put in some type of flood insurance so that we kind of work in a buffer. Flood insurance is nothing crazy. I think the highest I've seen is maybe around $900 a year, which is going to be relatively a $70 to $90 payment. So I know that that's not something that's going to make or break, but it is good to have that there just in case a property you do find is in a flood zone. Mortgage insurance. Mortgage insurance is going to greatly depend on whether we're doing FHA or conventional. Any client coming in with less than 20% on a conventional or using an FHA type of loan is always going to have mortgage insurance. So we want to make sure we're correctly calculating that into the payment. Now, the payment we will give you will have that calculated correctly. FHA is going to be a fixed percentage across the board for every client. Mortgage insurance for conventional is very credit driven, just like the rate. If we have a client in the 700s, that mortgage insurance is going to be great, and always, not always, but I would say most of the time, much better than an FHA mortgage insurance rate. Should you have a client that's not as great, credit is not as strong, they're probably going to be paying a little bit more mortgage insurance than FHA. The only benefit is that eventually that mortgage insurance does drop for conventional, where FHA is going to be for the life of the loan. Okay. Third factor to keep in mind is an HOA. Say, for example, I qualified a client, I sent you out looking for homes, but I didn't take HOA into consideration when qualifying them because they didn't mention they were going to look at homes that probably had that. We want to make sure that that doesn't throw off our qualification. Should you have an HOA that's too high or wasn't considered into that payment, again, I go back to what I gave you initially to look at. Make sure that including that HOA, that payment doesn't exceed that threshold that was given to you. Okay. Now, those are pretty much the basics of how you're going to use that pre-qualification to start that search of a home and filter these homes and show them to clients so that we can eventually get to the one that they love and want to put a contract on. Pre-approval letters, I will give to, I tend to like to give this pre-approval letter to you, the realtor, rather than the client. Why? One thing you'll learn in this business, there is barely any loyalty from clients, and they can easily jump from one to another agent, and just because you didn't answer your phone, I went and called an agent because I'm impatient and they showed me this house. This happens a lot. I see it constantly. It happens on the lending side as well, but we want to try to maintain as much control as we can on our side. What do I do with pre-approval letters? I don't tend to give pre-approval letters at pre-approval time. What I do is I'll generate these for you as you are getting ready to either prepare an offer or want to go see houses that require it. I will generate these letters and make sure that they're within that range that you need. Sometimes you don't want to give a client a $300,000 approval if you're looking at a house that's $225,000. That's going to give room for them to try to negotiate you up on price. Again, also, I want to give it to you guys so that you're in control of that. You can be the one that hands this off on an offer or a showing, rather than the client having this letter and being able to jump from one to another. Okay. Aside from the pre-approval letter, yes, it's good to have that, but what's going to be a lot stronger is going to be the DU approval. Now, also, aside from DU, there's also LP. LP is the same thing. It's just a different type of underwriting system. So they're synonymous. They mean the same thing. They're just different type of approvals, and they'll give you that approval. So basically what this is that file has been run through an automated underwriting system to make sure it meets the guidelines and the system likes the file. For example, in general, for conventional, my debt to income ratio maximum is 50%. There are going to be scenarios where DU or LP doesn't like a file that's at 49 because maybe the credit's not strong. Maybe the history is not a strong history. DU might tell me this client needs to be at 45% or less to qualify. So this is a great step to do in that pre-qualification stage to make sure that we don't run into any issues. And we had a client that we took them up to that 50% ratio. This is their max. And then DU doesn't like it. We want to make sure that we have this DU approved. So again, we're not wasting time, yourselves or myself, with a client that might not qualify at that 50% max DTI. So the DU will give us this. Plus, this will look a lot stronger when presenting your offers to a prospective seller. Okay. So I will always run this for you when it comes to a point where you think this is going to be a house that you are putting an offer on. And one major thing that I tell everyone, and I see this work a lot when presenting offers, is that let me know when you're going to put in that offer and copy me in those emails. Listing agents, sellers love to see communication. And by you including the lender, me replying to them at the point that you presented that offer, letting them know that I'm available to talk to them should they have any questions. That communication is a strong signal for them from the initial that this is how a transaction would be. We're going to be in communication with them. They're going to know what steps we're at. And that's something that listing agents and sellers love, and honestly gives a great advantage over other offers. And pretty much we charm them into accepting our offers. So I am available. Don't be shy to say, hey, William, I want you to speak to this listing agent if they want to discuss anything. I'm more than open for that. And it does work a lot for getting those offers accepted. Okay. So that's pretty much it. We've gone through all these steps. We've gotten to that point. We're putting that offer. And most likely, you know what, I'm going to tell you, they're going to get accepted because we're going to put in our work to get it done. The next steps will be getting it from that contract point to closing, which is another class that I give to give you guys kind of a little background of what's happening throughout that process. Okay. That's pretty much it for today. I just want to know, do any of you have any questions or anything based on the material I've given you today? Maybe stuff that wasn't on today. Do you have any questions? No? Okay. If not, whoever does want the information, the links for qualifying, the list to send to clients, I do have it in English. I have it in Spanish. And don't get scared with my name, William Green. I am a gringo name, but I do speak Spanish too. And we're available to help you guys whatever time you need. So just give us a call. If you do want those items, send me an email, send me a text, or whatever it may be, and we'll get that to you. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.